actually from the age of 16, I was making money and I was paying, why are women not seen as a provider? So I had to put myself in a really difficult position and become the first female in the world talking about financial trading and educating, and why is the wealthiest person on earth not a female?
This episode is sponsored by the Luxury Playbook, a digital publication that empowers you to achieve your luxury goals through data-backed articles in real estate, investing, and entrepreneurship. The Luxury Playbook is an online resource providing daily updates on essential information. Visit theluxuryplaybook.com today and gain the insights necessary to jumpstart your journey to success in real estate, investing, and entrepreneurship.
Welcome back to another episode of the Resilient Lounge. My guest today is literally an idol. I am fangirling hard. Her name is Hither Mann, a pioneering business investor and an educator in financial trading since 2012. She mentors through Fortune Academy, emphasizing financial literacy and investor mindset. In other words, she teaches you how to trade FX with the correct mindset. Her latest project, which is the Billionaire Project, guides you through leveraging private equity and IPOs, basically where the big money is, and shows you how to profit from these opportunities. Now, I came across Hither back in 2021 during the third UK lockdown when I was just casually scrolling on LinkedIn. I'm digging into her brain today, and I'm so excited to have her here. Hither, hi, welcome.
Hello.
To the Resilient Lounge podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting, the intro. Wow. I had no idea that's how you came across me. But
that is how I came across you. It was literally during lockdown. I was working and I'm on LinkedIn a lot because I do recruitment and I'm on LinkedIn 24/5. And I think someone liked something that you had posted and I was like, oh my God, who is this? And I started following you since then. And then I got into a lot of your webinars, exactly.
Nice.
And there was something about your energy. It was something, I was like, I need to watch this. And then I fell in love ever since.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. And that's the impact I've always wanted to have.
I want to know about your background, where you come from. How was it like growing up? Did you have someone in your family who had success and you looked up to them as a role model?
I think I probably don't talk about it enough on social since 2021, clearly, but I have been talking about it a lot in the past. I came from a family with no money. So if I had to really correct that, I was born in Kenya, in Nairobi, and I lived in a family that was a car manufacturing company. So I kind of was used to an entrepreneurial life, but it was very much for the men. So all I saw growing up was men have the money, women are housewives. And so I had no female role models. And at the age of 9, my mum had had enough of living in Kenya. She didn't want to be a housewife. She was actually a Londoner when she was growing up in her teens. My parents got married in the UK, came to Africa for a business set up with my uncles. And so we moved to the UK purely because my mum wanted me not to live anything like the housewife life, and she wanted me to be an educated human being. So growing up, from the age of 9, we started from zero. So my father had fallen out with his brothers. There was no money. He came with a small amount of savings to the UK, and he literally had to start at rock bottom. So I saw rock bottom. So the most impressionable years of me growing up, we didn't have money. So we were always struggling. And I saw my parents argue about the lack of money. And it was quite a depressing childhood. You know, I would never want to repeat that. And it was just such a big reason for me to want to be wealthy, because I actually thought if I could give them money, they will be happier. So growing up, I just had this massive urge to kind of, let's finish school, let's finish any education, get it out the way, because I want to get to university. And I thought going to university, getting a medical career would mean I'd be like happy ever after. Right. Obviously my life changed after that, but I was determined to just be rich because I was sick of seeing what I did growing up. So it wasn't no role models. I guess if I had to see any, there would be men and business owners. That was it. And I thought, they are driving the nice cars, they have the nice houses, they pull all the strings, they have all the power to say yes, do this, don't do that. And I didn't see any women doing that, which really troubled me. So kind of a reason why I stepped away from my culture. In my mid-teens, I was quite a rebellious human being. I questioned everything about my culture. Why do you guys do this? Why do women have to care what people think so much? Why do you care what your mother-in-law thinks or everybody else thinks? You know, I didn't want to ever get married to my cultural roots, and I didn't. And I just didn't want to live that life. So that was me. I was kind of like fighting against everything I saw growing up. And all I knew was I want to be wealthy because I want to change the way I live my life. Money ultimately gave me a voice, because before that, trust me, if I was broke, my culture would probably be like, look at her, she made all the wrong decisions. They're not very supportive of people who are not wealthy.
Yeah, I can agree with that, yeah.
So yeah, that was growing up.
It must have been really hard growing up. Broke, I guess.
Yeah. Knowing that you were an underdog. I mean, I went to private school. Again, education being like the key thing that my parents pushed. I was a clever kid. I got a scholarship for a private school in the UK. And obviously everyone who pays to go to those schools are wealthy. So there's me, like no one knew what my financial background was. I was kind of trained by my mother probably to keep it quiet. Okay. Like she was like always pretend you're one of them. I was not one of them. I could never tell anyone, look, we don't have money at the house. We are like struggling. My dad tells me every single day that we're a burden, and you know, whoever's going to buy me a Mercedes when he's older and we're older. That was the key thing that I heard growing up. But I had to try. I always felt like the underdog. So I was like this.
Why is that?
Because all my friends were rich and they had money that they never saw what I saw at home. So it was like, I always knew, I don't fit in here. I'm going to just live this life, as in I'm going to take what I need to from it, but I don't fit in with these people.
Okay.
They don't know what I'm going through, and they will never want to know. And so
your childhood was hard.
It was depressing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds, look, it does sound depressing, but it's obviously made you the woman you are today. This whole hustle and not giving up kind of thing. And I can understand that.
We didn't have any brothers either. So we were a group of 3 sisters. I'm the middle child. There is such a thing called a middle child syndrome. Yes,
there is.
Right?
The middle child always has more hunger.
Absolutely.
I see.
I
don't know, you guys are just wired differently.
Maybe, you know what, it's really weird. I didn't know it was a thing. I think until someone like Tony Blair said he was a middle child. I was like, oh my God, there's such a thing as middle child. But it is. I mean, I was the one that didn't follow the rules or didn't want to, and was outspoken, and just
the black sheep.
The black sheep of the family, correct.
Yes.
So that was my life. And I didn't have brothers. In my culture, again, they really respect the boys, you know. And my dad, fair play to him, he did say, you're my son. Because he knew, like, if anyone's going to be tough, even though he wasn't a very good dad, bless him, if he ever watches this, he's probably going to hate me. But it's the truth. He has heard it from me every now and then. But the truth is that he knew she can put up with, she's tough. Like, she can really take her, if she doesn't get broken down easily, like, we can push her about mentally or whatever, and she won't break or she won't give up. Whereas the other 2 are very girly, if that makes sense. So there was, like, those 2. And then there was me that was the provider. So actually from the age of 16, I was making money and I was paying my family. Like, I was giving my paychecks and paying for like my sister's schooling, and like her uniform bill was ridiculous. My dad couldn't afford it, so I had to pay for that. I was paying my family and my parents ever since 16. And I was hustling at that age. I don't know how I closed myself into jobs. I was 16, walked into a job that a 40-year-old had in between school holidays, you know, because I just told the guys, I'm never going back to school. I'm quit. You know?
So you dropped out of school?
No, I just told the recruiters that. So I got a really good pay.
Okay.
Bless them. This is like the little secrets of how I got a really good job when I was 16. And I got a really high paid, like 40-year-old's job when I was 16.
What job did you end up getting?
So it's like a PA to an executive director. And, you know, and as I walked into the office, they were like, have they sent us the wrong person because you're so young? But as soon as I did my work, they were like, geez, you're really good. And they hired me back, even though they knew, she's going back to A levels and whatever, but we'll have her back as soon as she needs, like, she's got any free time. So I got a really good paycheck for that temporary period. And then every summer I had some seriously good jobs. University, I had 3 jobs, and I was constantly hustling. I always had money. You know, there was so many things I did.
That is really great. I mean, even though you were hustling and it was obviously it was difficult, it is something that a lot of people do look up to. And hence why I also wanted to start the Resilient Lounge podcast, of people who have had shit in their life basically and obviously have made it.
Yeah.
And clearly, Hither, you have made it.
I don't think anyone who's really ambitious will always feel like there's so much more to achieve. I definitely do. But
sure.
In terms of, you're right, if you define made it as, do you need to work and have you got enough money to stop working for a few years? Yes, I don't ever have to work if I don't want to, but I just don't know what the hell I would do. I think mentally I would be a mess. If you do nothing, it's like more depressing than doing something, right? So for me, the most important thing is constantly growing. So money is just a byproduct of that. But of course, go back to my early years, money made me super happy because I felt like I finally had power and I wasn't the black sheep as much, or I was validating the black sheep, because all of those broken rules and, telling my parents, no, I'm not going to do it your way, I'm going to do it my way, watch. They wouldn't respect that had I not made money from the back of my decisions. So I think anyone watching or hearing this should always think, if you want to do something different in your life, ultimately the quickest way to validate that is earn some big money, because you'll be able to make choices, buy your freedom. And that's ultimately what I did. And then you can make the real big decisions in your life that will pivot you to the right place.
Exactly. And so with that being said, you said for people obviously to make a good amount of money in their lives, you opened up a business all around educating people how to correctly invest with their money.
Yeah.
And so I want to go deeper into that. So what inspired you to open the business of Fortune Academy and then the Billionaire Project too? So what is that all about?
I mean, these things happened in 2012 and 2020 respectively. And so if I had to backtrack a little bit, I guess I started in 2004. That's when I really started my investment journey. I started in real estate and then I pivoted to the financial markets. I was technically retired at 2012. And I was so what started the Fortune Academy was 2012, when I went to this big seminar, 3-day seminar. It was called the National Achievers Congress. They still probably do some of these now. People like Tony Robbins was there, Richard Branson, Alan Sugar, and Donald Trump, actually. He was a keynote.
Oh, wow.
So before he was completely blacklisted or who he is now. I was there, a VIP ticket, really keen little seminar junkie, just loving the vibes. And there was a whole 3-day event full of fantastic speakers, and I noticed they were all men, and then there was one female. And obviously the event was all about making money, business, e-commerce, property, financial markets. And I thought, oh my God, this female's going to talk about something great. I can't wait. What is she going to talk about? She'd probably be a bit like me. And she talked about how to dress. And I was so pissed, just like how you feel right now when I've said that. I was like, oh my God, what an anticlimax. I was looking forward to this woman, and she's talking about the most pointless topic compared to the men. So I went to the promoter, who was an American at the time, and I said, why have you got such a shit female lineup, i.e. one female, and she's talking about the most pointless thing in comparison to the other guys? And he said, because I know you. He kind of knew me from social media, Facebook at the time. He said, because someone like you, who is wealthy, who is, doing well, chooses to be in the audience, you should be on stage. And it was a very touche moment, because I realized, okay, there's me complaining about women are not represented well.
And you're not there up on stage.
Exactly. And I thought, oh, damn, this is now that moment of real uncomfortable growth that I have to really look at in the mirror and think, do I want to be that person? I honestly hated the thought of going on stages and speaking. I still am. 50% of my personality is quite introverted.
Really?
Am very.
I would not think that.
Oh my God.
I would not think that.
Really?
You do seem like an extrovert. I mean, given by, like your social media posts and your stories and all of that, you would think you're an extrovert. So you would
50%. If you do, I've done personality tests for years. And I mean, even without the personality test, I am someone who loves my own space, who would love to just have days where I'm just sitting reading a book and not speak to anyone. That's an introvert. An introvert gets their energy from being alone, right? I can't do it all the time, so I'm not that bad. So 50% of me is extroverted. So I pick the right audience. I feel really inspired and I feel high energy around the right people and the right conversations. And so, but the introvert me was absolutely terrified of being on stages. I would have died thinking about it. I had to get training. I had to spend £15,000 for a 5-day training to learn how to professionally speak, because I thought, no way in hell can I just jump on and wing it. It's not going to work. And to be honest, I'm so glad I did that. I invested money. I got mentors to teach me how to speak on stage. And then I felt confident to do it. And the reason I do it, the purpose was much bigger than me. At this point, at 2012, it was a key turning point for my mindset as well. I was no longer pursuing business just for me. I had made enough money. I had enough properties paying me rent. I had passive income. I had financial trading. I could have just carried on doing that for the rest of my life. But now the purpose of really bringing women to the limelight was my bigger mission. I couldn't say, okay, I've lived my life and I've died and I'm happy with the way it went, unless I gave that a real go. So I had to put myself in a really difficult position and become the first female in the world talking about financial trading and educating. And, on the speaker circuit, I was the first. And I do it only for that. So everything on social media is so intentional. I don't do it for, I think about everyone I'm trying to help in a positive way. That's why I probably come across so naturally extrovert. And it's very aligned to me.
Would you say opening this business was to empower women, to get women into becoming wealthy?
Yeah, even if you look back in my childhood, my dad kind of pinpointed me as a boy. Why do you have to say that? Why are women not seen as a provider? Why did I have to grow up in a culture where women are, oh, you should be married and have 10 kids by now, and it's quite a common fate. It's changing, and it's people like me and all of the women in the past have done incredible things that have kind of fought for our freedom of choice. I just didn't feel women had a voice in this world. And if you look at all the power, and even right now, why is the wealthiest person on earth not a female? That bothers me.
That is right. Yeah,
people don't.
I'd never thought about that.
I think about it a lot. So.
Oh my God, you are so right.
And I've obsessed about women's rights. I believe it or not, I'm a feminist, but I absolutely love working with men as well as women. The men have got me to where I am today, because if they weren't supportive of women, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. So I'm not saying, I'm anti-male. I love the men I've worked with. They are not misogynists, but there are some crazy misogynists out there, which I would never work with. But women, I am really bothered about why they don't feel comfortable with big money, why they don't feel comfortable being the richest person on earth. And when you look at how our neuroscience is wired, we need examples. For example, if you remember the 4-minute mile, the first time that was run, before that was run, the human belief was that you would die. People, research scientists at that time, it said your heart will explode if you run a mile under 4 minutes or in 4 minutes. So it was our belief at that time that you couldn't do 4 minutes. But as soon as one person did it, in that same year, I think there were a few more, 4 or 5 people that ran it as well. You can research it. It's probably slightly, that truth is that people need examples. So when we look at why women don't do big things, right now in our life, we're doing the best we've ever done. But I feel like this is still a fight we've got to keep. There's
still some limited beliefs, I guess.
Huge. Because I mentor women.
Right.
And when I started in 2012, most of my audience was 80% were men and 20% were women. They were very skeptical of whether they even they found financial trading really intimidating. And that's why I love people like you who are casually just living this life and all about it. But, fast forward to now, we are very 50-50 and I like that. And women are far more confident. And when I hear why they're confident, they say, because we see you talking about it and we feel like it's our place
too. Why do you think that women feel this intimidation towards money or earning money?
Money is a topic that is so emotional. The way money has been wired into our heads. So, by default, people are, if we look at the general demographics in the world, most people are not wealthy. So the way they kind of justify or validate their financial position is by saying money's an evil thing. If you go back to religion, some statements like in the Bible, which is incorrectly read, that money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money. And I get that. It's like saying if you love money so much that you'll kill someone for it, or if you do something really unethical and you sell your soul to the devil type. I agree, that is an evil side, but there is nothing wrong with actual money. The meaning is defined by ourselves.
It's how you're using the money, I guess.
And so I guess growing up, why women are intimidated, we've had a very slow start. You know, if you look at when they got, women were just not allowed to have role jobs once upon a time. Then they weren't even allowed to have bank accounts. If you look at it, the book I absolutely was appalled by, as in I love the book, appalled by the reality in it, is Why Women Are Poorer Than Men. There's a book, I forgot the author, but the title I can never forget that.
Why Women Are Poorer Than Men.
Correct.
Okay, no, I've never heard of this book, but I will look it up and definitely read it then.
You should read it, and you'll be so fired up because you'll be thinking, oh my God, this is so true. And you'll see why women genuinely we're wired to have, there's a pay gap. No one talks about it enough, but of course there is a gender pay gap. 85 cents to the dollar go to women, right? £1 or $1 would equivalent to a male salary. So women are consistently okay with lower standards in their life until someone breaks the mold and says, hey, no, this is not good enough. And who are we fighting? We're fighting a very male-dominated system. So we've got to recreate the economy in our own way. So I love the world we live in today. We've got creator economies like myself, who can just click their fingers and do what they like because I've created my own audience online. That I'm seeing a lot of women do. Then if in the workplace, corporate workplace, progression is kind of stalled in some ways because you're fighting corporate barriers, I think entrepreneurship is the number one way to change the narrative. And that's why I push it so much through Fortune Academy and the Billionaire Project now.
You did become the world's first female trader educator in 2012, but how did you transition into entrepreneurship from that?
So when I went to university, I studied to be a medical professional. I was an optometrist, which means I tested people's eyes. And lo and behold, it was quite boring, so I knew very quickly, okay, I'm not going to find any more stimulation here, mentally. And I was the highest paid optician in the country after 3 months. I put myself on a commission-only structure. And entrepreneurship, if I had to put it down to one thing, is be good at sales.
Yes.
You need to, and you are, right? You're in that role where you know exactly how sales works and the power of being good at sales. And so I realized doing that would make me a millionaire. And remember, I wanted to be a millionaire for my parents and just stop them arguing. So I pivoted to real estate by accident. I got invited to a networking event and someone was talking about how to buy properties with no money down. I was like, you can do that? Oh my God, how? Then I realized the skill set was something that I wasn't aligned to. Finding and negotiating great deals and closing people. And I naturally am a business-minded negotiator. I guess it's part of sales to be able to figure out what does the other person want? How can we make it happen? It's a win-win. And I was so good at that. I found deals below market value property and I was buying them with no money down using 100% bridging finance, which is why I offer it today because it changed my life. And I built up so much money that way. So that became my ticket to it was a lot of guilt associated with giving up my medical profession,
right?
Because I didn't want a plan B. So I think one really important thing to mention is I don't think people are brave enough to get rid of that plan B. So what I did, I rang up the General Optical Council, which is the register in the UK, somewhere in London, where every optician is listed. I rang them up. I said, take me off. That means I cannot practice as an optician unless I went through all of that year of trial and tribulation and whatever tests again. They were like, are you sure? Why? I said, I just don't ever want to be an optician. I want no plan B. That's what made me successful. It's not just, oh yeah, I'll have my little degree in the background and I will try this entrepreneurship and see if it works out. It will never work out. I have seen people who've tried being entrepreneurs, but they've kept their degree and they've kept their qualification and they thought, we can go back to that. They've always had that foot in the other door. They haven't fully cut that tie and they've never been successful as a result. So it just came down to, that one paid. I was making, for example, each deal on the house, I was making 35K tax-free money. Times that by 4, I was doing about 4 or 5 a month compared to a 70K salary or a 70K a year. It's a no-brainer, right? So the money made sense. That was number one. When you've made more money, and it was it broke the rules, learning to work 7 days. I was working 7 days a week as an optician. And then I was making half a 6-month salary in one deal. Am I an optician? Why would I carry on being an optician? It was just down to the guilt. What would my parents say? What would everyone else say? And I'll be honest, it wasn't easy. It was a very difficult decision to do that, but I had to do it because I knew that this is what's going to make me all in. You got to be fully in, not half and half. And it wasn't until my dad saw a bank statement that he stopped badgering me about it.
Really?
Yeah. He would always say, you're good for nothing, sitting around, like you should be working out the door, even though I bought the house that they're living in and everything else. I moved out eventually, but for a small period, you're not allowed to move out in my culture when you were my age, not married, etc. He would be very critical of, what do you think you're trying to do with this property? You're like doing no work. He'd see me waking up when I wanted, or just like not rushing out at 7 o'clock in the morning, driving to an optician to work. He thought that was more valuable because that's his 9 to 5 thinking.
Textbook kind of, go to university, get that job.
And stay in that job
forever. And that's it.
And he just couldn't get in his head and this is a proof that money speaks. And that's why I encourage people, look, make money. And that's why everything I do at Fortune Academy is about make money, because I know.
So how can you make money then?
So I think the first thing, if I had to really break it down, is you have to be great at sales, which means your relationship with money has to be good. So that's why I created a program called the Millionaire Mindset Program, which is part of Fortune Academy. So Fortune Academy was initially just financial trading education, but a huge part of financial trading was the psychology of trading and mindset, the money mindset. So if I had to really strip it back and go in chronological order, it's redefining what money means to you, because most people don't like it, believe it or not. They think they like being wealthy, but they don't like the concept of them being rich. They feel that it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable for them to feel or see themselves as a super wealthy or filthy rich. Like they can't get that in their head.
That could be because of how they were probably brought up.
100%.
It's that kind of, that mindset of the way you were brought up about money. If, you had parents who were in debt and all of that, the money would make you feel uncomfortable and you would be afraid of money.
And also all they've seen, as well as I did, my dad used to say that wealthy people are crooks.
Yes.
He'd say that. He'd say that this guy's wealthy because they did something dodgy. And, when I really look, and I believed it when I was 8 years old, I used to think, oh yeah, that person must be dodgy. But when I'm older, you've got to be that why person. You've got to ask yourself, why is this person thinking? I question, why does my mom think that? Why does my dad think that? They think it because they're limited in their thoughts so much. And maybe that's a way for him to feel better about why he did do well. He doesn't want to look in the mirror and say, well, actually, that was what's wrong with my relationship with money. I could have been successful, rather than blaming other people for lack of success. So there are people that take responsibility for their life, and you will have to then redefine what money means to you. And so that's number one, realizing that it's not a scary thing. You have to like yourself as well. A lot of people by default are growing up with a very poor self-image. So we don't have that self-esteem. I certainly never felt enough, for example. And money made me feel better. I don't think this is the answer. You have to really work on it.
But it didn't fill the gap.
It didn't fill the gap. So you have to get therapy, get a coach. And that's why I did so much of this coaching as well, because I knew I could see it so easily. I've had so much work I've done on myself that I know instantly when I meet someone struggling to make money, it's because they feel a guilt about making money, or they feel like they're not deserving of it. And it comes to the simple truths starting within. And that's the biggest challenge. If you actually like yourself with or without money, you have to like yourself without money first. That's a challenge. Yes. And that's really tough, because you've got to think, am I a person of value? And am I a good person? And you've got to get rid of all the baggage that you've had in the past from God knows where you've grown up. And then you've got to get to a point where you have to live without validation. Because I'll give you an example from me. So money up till the age of 27, money made me feel good.
Right. So
the more money I made, the better I felt. And I thought that was the way forward. But then I became paranoid as hell. I was single. I was dating with the intention to get into a serious relationship. And it was so uncomfortable because I was getting so super wealthy. People would see this outwardly wealth status from either my cars or houses or whatever. And I would then get paranoid. Do they like me for me, or do they like my money? Like, I don't know which one it is. I became really insecure about it. And it wasn't until I took a very conscious effort to, do I like myself if I had no money? And at that point in my life, the answer was actually no.
Okay.
So up till 27, I only liked myself because I had ticked all these boxes of, I've got so much money in the bank. Like, money validated me. And it's so dangerous. So I had to go through a whole conscious reconfiguration.
Rewiring your brain.
Yeah, it's quite a spiritual thing, actually, because you've got to
is.
see that you have to be bigger than money, because money was defining me.
Yeah.
And then I had to like pivot to a point where I was bigger than money. And that's the game changer. When you get to that point, I didn't care whether people liked me or not. I loved myself. Like, it took a while to get there. I'm not going to say it's easy. A lot of counseling, a lot of coaching, a lot of like deep wired rewiring. You got to figure out where all the baggage is coming from. And then I realized that, you know, money is just an object. It's like, if I want more, I can make more, but it doesn't change me.
Doesn't define you.
Doesn't define me. Absolutely. And that's a journey I've seen when I've coached tier 1 bank directors. So my peak performance skills got so high because I became obsessed with neuroscience, human behavioral psychology, myself as being the prime subject, that I eventually started coaching really elite human beings. And they paid me a lot of money for it. Like, tier 1 banks would pay me shitloads of money to do a session with their bankers. And they were all doing what I was doing when I was 27. Money defined them.
Right.
They were drinking, smoking, women, drugs, everything. They were just super self-sabotage going on. Money was the only thing. They were just chasing money, but they were absolutely hollow within. And they couldn't figure out why they had such a problem in their life and why everything was falling apart, their marriage, why they were so unhappy, why they were suicidal. Banking is a lot of suicide.
Yes, it does. I mean, the industry is
highly flawed in the way it's run.
Yes.
You know, so that was, and that's why I became passionate about helping the banking world, because I realized how my mental health had struggled in my 20s because of, one, feeling like an underdog, two, money was covering it up, patching up the reality that it was for a little while making me feel good. I realized that I'm not the only one. There are people doing this for a profession in the banking world that only get to the point where money makes them feel good. They don't have any spiritual depth. And so I had to show them that. And I remember one guy who everyone hated because he was really cold and not very nice. He gave me a hug at the end. He said, "You've given me more help in 5 hours than 5 years of therapy." I was like, there you go. You know, this is what bankers need and the banking world needs. And that's why I really enjoyed the coaching element, because I know how many people I helped in that. And so not only just the elite, I've had fighter jet pilots, ex-fighter jet pilots, ex-army, Gurkhas, you know, really high-end, what are they, Marine type of level command, what a ridiculous things I've been through, paratroopers. They come to me because they said, you give us the no BS approach.
And that's what's needed, basically.
And I used to swear in these bank, because I'm used to that. I've always grown up with the boys.
It is and also our industry is a bit like, I want to say male dominated.
Very male. It is.
But because a lot more women are coming into the industry now, but because it is male dominated, they do use a lot of foul language and everything.
It's almost
but
the only
why is
way.
it always us women who say, "Oh, excuse my language"? What I'm talking about is generally women as well have to be careful with how they're presenting themselves, even if it's speaking to the bankers the way you did, swearing, doing this, that, the other.
It's the only way you can get through to them.
Exactly. Why does Tony Robbins get through to everyone? Because when he swears, it really hits deep, because it resonates with the other person.
It creates a spike in the neuroscience.
Exactly.
So I never apologize for it when I'm coaching someone at a high level, because I know they need to hear it only when they need to hear it. And you know, this kind of coaching is quite tough. So I mean, what I've had to go through, and I think, again, to answer your question of what should people do, you've got to be able to take that rejection and reality really well. So if someone reveals to you where, I love, for example, I had a coach that was coaching Kobe Bryant in the past.
Oh, wow.
You know, and Michael Jordan. That was the kind of coaches I wanted, someone that was top level, because he even said top athletes and top business people are the same neuroscience. They very much think the same. They've got very high standards. I don't want to pay someone to tell me what I want to hear. Like, oh yeah, you're doing great, Hither, and carry on doing what you're doing.
So Hither, how can we think like you then? What is different about your brain to just someone who's ordinary, for example?
I think competitive spirit. So growing up competing. So, if you can't change your childhood, I mean, if anyone's listening to this and they are a parent, this is paramount. the way they raise their girls, I mean, boys as well, we don't kind of treat them different. Boys and girls should be treated the same. Because my dad had no boys, he treated me like the boy. And that's honestly what made me better than the girly girls in comparison. I'm talking about my sisters, so I'm not ever pointing the finger at any other females. I think women are fantastic. But I have seen a difference between my sisters went to a girls' school, I went to a mixed school. I refused to go to a girls' school because I thought I want to be good as or better than the boys. I used them as a benchmark, and I used to compete with the guys. So competitive spirit, to think like a real solid, resilient entrepreneur, you need to be able to compete shoulder to shoulder with the best and with the boys and take it on the chin. For example, I did martial arts for 17 years. I only sparred with the boys. I never sparred with any females. I actually thought it was below me. I know it sounds really bad, but I was like, no, I'm tougher than this. And they wouldn't give me the females. I actually only sparred the men, and they're taller than me, bigger than me, heavier than me, but I had that skill set that was just good enough. I used to race cars, you know.
You did a lot of male kind of competitiveness.
Very.
Yeah.
I only got validation if I beat the boys. I never found any excitement beating the girls.
And that definitely stems from your dad saying to you, you're like one of the boys.
He said, "You're my son." He goes, from all three of you, I know you're going to look after me.
So guys, in order to be rich, you've got to have a shitty father. Moral of the story.
Unfortunately, true, which is a good thing about having that kind of child. So I never look back at my parents and think, okay, I hate you, you know. Okay, they may not have been great parents, but they did their best. I have a great relationship with them, but if I had to be parents, would I do the same? Not really. I just think consciously that would be really the worst thing to do. But I love how competitive I became. Yeah. And it became the reason why I just felt like I have to keep going.
Do you still feel the sense of needing to be validated now?
So now I'm driven by, am I doing enough? Okay. You know, so your
purpose is different now.
Yeah. Now it's no longer a validation. I feel like I'm good enough for me. Like I know I can live with myself, whether people like me or not. It's fine. I don't mind. You know, I love myself, and that's the most important thing. But now what I'm doing is I need to know by the time you die in your life, if you had to look back at your life on your deathbed and think, have I done enough? Like, that's what I want to be okay with. I want to know, did I try everything I could possibly do? And to be honest, I still think I have days where I think, oh, that was a bit lazy. You could have done more. I don't want to be in that comfort zone. So I have to keep pushing myself and trying, because money can make you comfortable, you know, and that's a dangerous thing. So I don't want to be comfortable. I want to constantly be checking in with my purpose. Am I representing women the best way? And now that's why I started the Billionaire Project. That's why the fund became my new obsession, and it challenges me, you know, and that's how I feel like, I'm doing, that's probably what validates me, knowing that I am constantly pushing and challenging myself.
I love that. What is the best advice you've ever got?
It was when I was in a petrol station when I was 24, I think, and I was driving a sports car, but not as nice as what I wanted. And some guy turned up in I think it was an Aston Martin. Yeah. And he was an older guy. And we're at the petrol station, and there's me, like, you know, I was filling up my car, and I said to him, hey, and he was like my dad's age. I said, what do I need to do to get one of those? I said, so, you know, I said, I really want to get one of those. So what do I need to do? And that was probably such a good question, because he was so happy that I asked it. He goes, remember this, before you go into any meeting in business, always know what you're looking to get. Like, have your real intention set before. So if you want to go into a meeting, know exactly the outcome that you want to achieve before you go in. Don't just walk in. Because and that is completely what keeps you in control in business. If I only go into meetings where I'm very intentional about the outcome, I always get it. If you've ever had a meeting where you're just like open-ended, see what happens, you have just wasted that.
Not worth it at all.
And it stuck. That piece of advice, I remember every single day, whenever I have a meeting, anytime I get on a call. I had calls, 2 really important business calls, one from Monaco, one from Dubai just before this. And every time before I took that call, I was very intentional. And I still use it. And that's got to be the best piece of advice ever.
That's amazing. That is really good. That's really great advice.
Simple, but makes sense, right?
It like hits you. And what would the worst advice you've ever gotten be?
It was from a financial trader in London, alpha male, typical Wolf of Wall Street. And he said to me, oh God, because I was starting the Fortune Academy, and actually Fortune Academy started in 2016. Typically, I was called the only ways forex before. It was just crazy. It was just forex. And he said, that's like ridiculous. Don't go on social media. That's so cringy. Like, don't ever do that. You know, you should just stick to, he was very old school in the sense that he thought, you know, influencers, that was before the influencer thing was a big thing, right? So he was telling me that the worst thing you could do is try and be an influencer, or try and change people's mind, or talk about what you're trying to do, or share your thoughts on social media. And obviously, what an idiot, right? Because I wouldn't be having this conversation had I not done that. And all the amazing YouTubers and social media influencers out there, we need them. Yeah. I think that's what's shaping our culture right now.
Literally right now, yeah.
So that was the worst advice, hands down.
Well, I wonder where that guy is now.
He's actually trying to be an influencer.
Oh, no way.
It's hilarious. He had gone bankrupt in a certain venture because he was so toxic. Everything about him was toxic. I was probably the only good thing that happened to him in terms of conversation. And then, long story short, he's following in my footsteps.
Oh, no way.
And it's so cringy to watch because he reached out to me a few years ago and I thought, oh, funny that. And he goes, I learned from you, HM, you know, and I was like, whatever.
That's insane.
But it's funny, yeah. But shocking advice from him.
Wow. So you're a VC.
Yeah, VC investor, yeah.
And earlier we were talking about women not really going forth in a business, or money doesn't make them comfortable, whatever.
Yes.
The other day you put up a post.
Yeah. Try and do some triggering posts every now and then.
So the other day you put up a post saying that you have more men coming to you, pitching you about, you know, about their businesses for you to obviously help them with or whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't see many women coming to you to pitch their ideas or whatnot.
Still bothers me that, yes.
Why does that bother you? What is it?
Why does it bother me and why does it happen?
Why does it bother you and why does it happen?
It bothers me because it happens. That's one. It bothers me because there's me trying to like get women to be comfortable with wealth. And it is such a lagging process. You know, ultimately I want to have, why are there not more women like me or better than me? And of course there are tons better than me, you know, amazing women in the world, but I see a lot more kind of intimidated, and that bothers me because I know if you can't get past that level, if you don't ask for more, you won't get more in life. You know, you get, and I think Tony Robbins said this, you get exactly what you ask for in life.
Yes.
You know, so it's exactly that. If they're not asking, if they're not putting themselves out there and say, hey, I'm investable, look at me, you're not going to get a game-changing company. I mean, so I don't think the stats are always, you know, men are horrible to women and they don't want to invest in women. I honestly think it's because women are not even there to begin with. They're not at the starting line, so they can't finish.
So how would you get more women coming to approach you?
I'm still figuring that out by doing these crazy events. So that's exactly, so I'm using my platform to say, hey, come and pitch. I'm trying to make it friendly. You don't have to be perfect yet. You just need to turn up and we'll help you, and I'll help you get this pitch right. And it's literally like encouraging and inspiring and constantly like dragging them slowly. Okay. Sometimes I have to drag them. So that's the only way I can do it, by leading by example. And that's why I wanted to set up a fund and be the female-led fund. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm doing it, because I know I'm making a point. Women need that example. And the more I talk and shout about it on social media, the more they're going to think, oh, that could be me too. And that's ultimately how I think it will change.
Hither, where can our listeners and viewers find you?
As you found me on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn because it does bring me a really high caliber audience. I love LinkedIn, I'm on there. And Instagram is my other big platform. I love Instagram because I find it really easy just to share stories. I think I naturally gravitate to Instagram a lot more. Mm-hmm. Those two are my favorite platforms. I would say follow me on either one of them. I exist on the others. I'm not as strong on them, but I maybe in the future, but those two are my favorite. And I do interact with people when I, you know, make a poll or like actively ask for stuff. And my team is constantly on it too. So they constantly feedback when people are asking questions.
Okay, perfect. So if you want to follow Hither, remember it's on Instagram or LinkedIn. Her username is Hither Mann. Make sure you can see that her profile is verified, because
lots of fake profiles.
Hate that.
We get over 200 reports a week.
That's crazy.
It's insane. I hate it, but I don't know. I mean, we report them all.
Yeah, well, anyway, she'll be the one with the blue tick.
Yes, yeah.
And I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to this today. And if you're watching, Hither, thank you so much for coming. It really means a lot. I'm honored.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.